Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Michael. In this build we are going to be scaping a tank for my Betta Cheese. This build is going to be a pretty basic scape because I don't want there to be too much to hide his beauty, but give him enough to explore. Starting off, I'm going to be using an old 14 litre Aqua 1 tank I had spare around the house, adding a base layer of Pisces Sahara gold sand. I like the natural feel of this sand with light browns and a few black spots thrown in to really break up the colouring. I'm not going too deep with this layer because I'm not going to actually plant anything in this layer. I then flatten to make a nice even base for the hardscape. Now we have a nice even base layer, we can start with the hardscape. Here I'm using Sirius stone. I like how it contrasts with the sand nicely. I'm starting with the biggest piece first and then moving on to the smaller shelved piece. Next is this nice piece of driftwood. Not sure what type of wood unfortunately, but it resembles a small tree trunk, which is nice. For stability and keeping this piece in one spot, I put it under the front stone. I add a couple more stones around the base of the wood. I first add this small flat piece and a smaller rounder piece onto the flat stone. As you can see, I struggle a little bit trying to get everything situated and sitting correctly. I then make sure the wood is secured properly underneath the stones. I wasn't happy with how the wood was sitting, so I moved it until I was happy with the placement, and then evened out all of the sand to make a nice transition. I gave the whole tank a misting with the spray bottle to get everything damp to start planting, and then wiped away the excess from the glass. Next up is probably the most enjoyable part of building fish tanks in my opinion, is actually planting. I start by getting some gel super glue. Any super glue here would work, but I prefer the gel super glue because it gives me enough time to actually fumble around with all the plants. I add a small amount of the super glue in between where two of the branches come out. The first plant I'll be planting in this tank is the Anubis nana. It's an easy plant to take care of and you don't have to worry about planting it into any soil or anything, so sticking it to the driftwood is perfectly fine. I start to place the Anubis onto the driftwood, but can't seem to get a good position to get the plant to sit onto the glue. I thought I had it, but when I removed my pliers, the plant came with me. So I tried spinning the plant around and moving it around until I had it perfectly in the position I wanted. The next plant in the tank is another Anubias, but this Anubias is called Anubias nana petite, a smaller version of the other plant. I place a small amount of glue into one of the crevices in the stone and press the plant into the stone. The next plant I'll be adding is a trident Java fern. Just like the Anubias, Java ferns can be attached to hardscape and doesn't need to be planted. I plant a couple more smaller Java ferns on the rocks that are around the tree. Throughout the whole planting process, I keep misting all the plants so they don't dry out. The final plant I will be adding is Java moss, an easy plant to care for and can be attached to hardscapes also. To attach the moss to the wood, I add a small amount of glue to the wood and press a small bunch of moss into the glue. Once I'm happy with the placement of the moss, I need to make sure that the moss doesn't float away. I'm going to start by taking a small section of cotton thread and wrapping it around the wood. Once it is attached firmly, I will attach the end of the cotton thread with a dab of glue. All the plants that I've used in this build are called epiphytes, which are plants that are grown by taking nutrients from the water column. To tie the build together, I'm going to add Pisces Gunsmoke coarse aquarium gravel around the stones to soften the transition between the stones and sand. To soften the transition even more, I'm going to add Pisces Gunsmoke fine aquarium gravel around the coarse gravel I just added. Adding both the coarse and fine aquarium gravels makes the build look more realistic and more natural, like it's right from the wild. thought the right hand side of the tank was looking a little empty, so I added a small Sirius stone like a small stone island. Once again, like the rest of the build, I had both the coarse and fine gravel to soften the transition, so it doesn't look like a stone sitting in the middle of nowhere. It's time for the most satisfying part of the build, filling the tank up with water. The water has been treated with API stress coat to dechlorinate the water, and API stress zyme to add beneficial bacteria to kickstart the cycling process. The filter of choice for this tank is the Aqua One Clearview 100 hang-on filter. I chose this filter because it is the perfect size for such a small tank. The inside of this filter has a small cartridge with wool and carbon to remove small particles from the water. The filter also comes with a coarse black sponge to pick up any larger particles. There is a water flow regulator on the intake to limit the outlet flow speed. The next most important piece of hardware for the Betta is a heater. This heater is an Aqua One 55 watt heater set at 25 degrees Celsius. I decided to place the heater in the back left of the tank, so that when the water gets pulled into the filter, the water gets heated and distributed evenly from the filter. I moved the large stone in the back of the tank to make room for the heater, and to be able to lock the heater in place. Here's the filter plugged in and running. I first had to fill the back compartment of the filter with water to get the filter to draw water up the inlet pipe. After the tank has been cycled for a week, I can now add Cheese to his new home. If you enjoyed this build with me, please consider liking the video and subscribing to my channel. I greatly appreciate it. Have a lovely day and see you in the next one.